Thanks to a police officer, this lucky woman does not have to walk 12 miles to her work anymore. Jalicia's day started like every other work day. She had to wake up early to prepare breakfast for her kids, clean up a bit, and then get ready for her daily 12-mile walk. Everything was ordinary until it was not. Jalicia was walking on the sidewalk with her usual pace, heading to the fast food restaurant she works at. She was deep in her thoughts when she noticed a car slowly approaching her. Assuming it was just a regular car slowing down, she just ignored it and kept walking. However, the car was persistent, and it seemed like whoever was driving had their eyes set on her. They were actually following her. The car kept getting closer to Jalicia, but she continued walking anyway with the same pace, praying that nothing bad was going to happen to her. Not on this day, not like this. She kept on walking until she saw a red and blue light. That's where Jalicia understood that the car following her was actually a police vehicle, which was not comforting news to her, especially with the stories she heard about police officers in her neighborhood. Soon after she realized what was going on, the cop honked at her, only confirming her doubts and her fears. The cop in the car was Sergeant Scott Bass. Bass was also heading to work that day, driving in his police vehicle on his way to the Nash County Sheriff's Office to report for duty. He was almost at the Stonegate mobile home community when he noticed a familiar face he'd been waiting to come across for many days. Now that Sergeant Bass finally found the woman he'd been expecting to see on his way, he wasn't going to waste the opportunity. The woman was, as you have probably predicted, Jalicia Corrin. The day that started like her other regular work days changed in moments, as sudden bursts of rain made her already difficult routine even worse. Luckily, Jalicia had her umbrella with her, but the moment she tried to open it, strong winds cast out of her hands. The umbrella was of no use in such conditions, and she had to continue her path under the rain with no protection. Jalicia was nowhere near her work and was already soaking wet. Despite her miserable condition, she stayed alert and tried to avoid all the growing puddles on the sidewalk. It had already been enough of a struggle to get to work that day, and having an incident with a police officer was the last thing she wanted or needed, or so she thought. Jalicia did everything she could to make her daily walk to work tolerable within her budgetary limits. For instance, she bought herself a comfortable pair of sneakers that couldn't save her from getting soaked in the rain. Every day, she walks to and from Bojangles. This was definitely not her first time walking for so long, but her aching feet were shouting for mercy. The journey covers a crazy round trip of a total of 12 miles. An exhausting trip she was willing to make every single day to provide for her family. She was willing to do anything for her children, and the thought of not letting them down was what gave her strength every step of the way. However, when Sergeant Bass showed up and stopped her, she started questioning everything in her life. She walked on that highway every single day for 12 long miles, risking her life days and days again. What am I doing wrong? She thought to herself. Perhaps she was becoming a troubling issue to the motorists. What could possibly be the reason why she was being stopped now? And why on this day of all days? Jalicia knew that she couldn't just keep ignoring the police vehicle any longer, as it was obviously not working. The driver was still honking at her. She finally decided to stop and wait for the cop to come, holding her heart with both hands. For Jalicia, a cop always meant trouble. She was afraid of what he would say or do to her. She kept thinking about how this encounter would affect her workday. She'll be getting to work pretty late, and she was not in shape to receive any scolding from her boss for her time management. But it had to be done. It's not like she had any other choice to make. She stood still under the pouring rain and waited for him. It wasn't really Bass' responsibility to give her a ride to work because of the weather conditions. Nowhere in his police officer job description did it say, "You must give free rides to pedestrians." However, he had been seeing this woman on her way to work almost daily. He saw her struggle and the long risky route she took every day to get to work. He just couldn't get the thought of her daily struggle out of his mind. Sergeant Bass just admired her tenacity and persistence. She'd walk for 12 whole miles every single day just to provide for her children, no matter the weather, the traffic, or even her health conditions. He deeply admired her resilience and wanted to do something about it. He knew he could personally do more for this hardworking mom. But what could he possibly do to ease her struggles? That day was the perfect chance to show her his appreciation. It was raining cats and dogs. She was with no raincoat and had to get to work by foot. He had a car, so why wouldn't he just drive her and ease up her struggle for a day? He pulled up next to her and offered her a ride to Bojangles. Jalicia was reluctant at first, but it was an offer she couldn't turn down considering the weather and the condition she was in. She got in, feeling uncomfortable at the thought of riding to work in a police vehicle with a complete stranger. What made her nervousness get even worse was when the cop asked her to meet up with him, seconds before he dropped her off at her work. She didn't have the slightest idea why he wanted to see her. She agreed nevertheless, hoping it was nothing troublesome. Troubles with the cops were the last thing she needed at that time. Jalicia was asked to come to the sheriff's office after work. When she arrived at the station, she saw Sergeant Bass waiting for her at the entrance. The moment he saw her, he went to his car immediately. He reached in and hauled out a big package. What Bass pulled out of his car was a new Schwinn Fairhaven Women's Cruiser bicycle. Before Jalicia even had a chance to react, Bass told her that it was a heartfelt gift. She was speechless and in short for words. She didn't understand what was going on. Why would a cop gift a bicycle to a civilian they didn't even know on a personal level? Jalicia felt ashamed for having thought the worst about the cop at the beginning. Kindness from adults was something so rare in her life that any act of kindness from people seemed like a trap. She had to stay alert at all times. Life taught her the hard way not to trust easily. This cop's great act of kindness made her regain faith in humanity after having lost it. In Sergeant Bass' mind, Jalicia was one of the most admirable individuals he's got the chance to meet in his life. For the sake of her kids, she didn't mind getting blisters on her feet from walking a total of 12 miles each and every day. Even though it was awkward for Jalicia to accept such a gift from not just any stranger, a police officer, Sergeant Bass made sure that she didn't feel it was a charity. He made her see his admiration and appreciation for the sacrifice she was making just to put food on the table for her children. His gift was a symbolic one he wanted to offer her not just to show his admiration, but to also ease her struggle a bit. 12 miles/day was no easy ride. Knowing that someone she didn't even know noticed her and appreciated her hard work warmed her heart even more. It felt nice to be appreciated for once, even by a complete stranger. The meeting between Sergeant Bass and Jalicia was recorded by other cops from the Nash County Sheriff's Office. The video was posted on YouTube by CBS 17. And within a matter of hours alone, the video went viral across all social media platforms. The video got over 6,000 views only a few hours after being uploaded, and people were loving it. The Nash County Sheriff's Office also felt proud of their members' act of generosity. There is no denying that with all the unfortunate incidents that occur between people and cops, many people lost their trust in the police force. But a few bad apples shouldn't tarnish the entire group. Police officers like Bass set the example of the good cop. Sergeant Bass has been an inspiration to every other cop who stumbled across the viral video. His act of kindness left a big print on not only Jalicia's heart, but on everyone who watched the recorded video. He was proof that there was still good in the world, and that the police force isn't as most think of it. Many good cops serve their country with diligence and pride, and many more rush to give help and kindness even when it's not asked for. After the video went viral, people from different media channels were looking for Jalicia Corbett, who gladly agreed to speak in interviews. When she was asked about what she felt at that moment, she said that she was shocked. It sounded unreal, almost as if she was in a vivid dream. Jalicia found out that Sergeant Bass not only noticed her long walk to work every day, he appreciated it greatly and wanted to show that. She said, in Bass's own words, "I wanted to help Jalicia because she walks 6 miles to work every day regardless of the temperature, rain or shine, stands on her feet during her entire shift, and walks 6 miles under the same conditions back to her home, and that is truly admirable. I've had the opportunity to get to know her and wanted somehow to lessen her burden of that 12-mile walk," he said in an interview. I was truly humbled by Sergeant Bay's efforts when he asked if it was okay to help Jalicia and to see the happiness and joy he brought to her by his actions, is what Natch County Sheriff's Office Chief Deputy Brandon Medina said. Great job, Sergeant Bass. There are actually many stories about cops who went above and beyond what their job requires of them to help those in need of an external helping hand. One of the stories that warmed people's hearts, for instance, is the one where a cop helped a homeless woman she found on the street. She was sitting outside in ragged clothes in the middle of a freezing winter day, holding up a sign saying she needed shoes. The San Francisco police officer, named Jackie Sellinger, took the woman to a store in Union Square and bought her a pair of all-weather boots for $1.69. A passerby saw this action and took the photo you see above. Another heartwarming story is that of Commander Brian Peters. Commander Brian Peters, who was about to retire as a Minnesota policeman, decided to do one big act of kindness to give back to the community. Before he retired from the police force, as he was walking along the streets of his 14-year patrol route for the last time, he sought out citizens who could use the extra money for groceries or school supplies and gave them gift cards. He stopped people on his way and handed them $1.50 gift cards for Target and Cub Foods. Chandra Lindsay spoke to CARE TV about her being one of the people who got one of these gift cards. She said that she was very nervous when Officer Peters approached her at a Metro Transit stop. I got a little scared, but he came to me with some good news. I didn't know what he was coming over here to me for. It was a surprise. He blessed us, and I'm really happy about that. Peters said how the citizens and city have been wonderful to me. I'm very blessed, so it feels good to give back. We just want to improve the relationship between the community and the police, is what they had to say at the end of one evening in Homestead, Pennsylvania. A group of cops had the perfect response when a couple refused to sit by them at Eat and Park. So what did they do? They paid the couple's bill and even added a hefty tip. Essentially, the whole goal of it was to let him know that we're not here to hurt you. Officer Chuck Thomas said, "We're here for you. We work for the public, and we just want to improve the relationship between the community and the police." Thomas wrote a note to the couple saying, "Sir, your check was paid for by the police officers you didn't want to sit next to. Thank you for your support," which he then shared on Facebook for more people to see. Another sweet incident is when Officer Joe Hudson spotted a man in his wheelchair trying to mow his own lawn. His partner, Officer John Killa, and he felt that they needed to stop the car and come to aid the man who was obviously struggling. They decided to get out and take over his job. Officer Killa went to the Kalamazoo Public Safety Station to pick up a mower, weed trimmer, and leaf blower. The two officers then got to work and helped the Michigan man finish cutting the grass. Locals stopped to see what was going on and even stayed to see the end result of two cops mowing a lawn, which was, needless to say, flawless. Instead of giving this mother a ticket, he bought her car seats instead. Officer Kevin Zimmerman pulled over Andrella Lashy Jackson in October 2019 for a registration issue, but he noticed that her young daughters weren't sitting in car seats. He walked up to her car and saw two young girls standing up and waving at him. He asked the mother why the little girls didn't have car seats, to which she simply answered that she couldn't afford them. She didn't even have enough to buy them winter coats and boots. On a regular basis, a cop would give her a ticket for driving with children in the car without car seats, but instead, Zimmerman went an extra mile and got her two car seats for her daughters. When Zimmerman was with Jackson at the traffic light, his dispatch called him to come to a nearby Walmart to handle an incident there. He had to report for duty, but he decided to take Jackson's phone number first. He then went to Walmart to find the reported incident and resolved it. After that, he headed straight to the car seat section. He gave Jackson a phone call as he had to ask her how much the girls weighed in order to get the correct seat size. He was surprised when she answered the phone. "I want to do something for you and your kids, but I need your kids' weights," he told her. Andrella kept silent for a few seconds, trying to fully grasp the situation, but then she told him their weights and then hung up. Zimmerman spent almost $7.75 on the car seats, then went to the station to pick up stickers and children's books for her daughters. When he arrived at Jackson's house with the gifts, she was speechless. He showed Andrella how to buckle the girls safely. They posed for a picture, the one below, then headed back to work. He had no idea that the story would go viral, he said in an interview. He said how his parents taught him to always do the right thing when no one's looking. That's kind of always been my philosophy, said Zimmerman. I don't care about the PR. He told the interviewer that officers in his district buy food and toys for kids all the time, but never get the praise he's gotten. Jackson and her daughters were very thankful for the police officer's help. In a Facebook post that Andrella shared, which quickly got more than 1,000 likes, she wrote, "My girls couldn't stop thanking him, and it made them smile. We appreciate it a lot." Zimmerman has kids of his own, and as a cop, he had seen terrible car crashes with children involved. He just Jackson's daughters to be safe. "It's always in the back of my head what those scenes look like," Zimmerman said. "I really wanted to help her out." The officer said that he's been wanting to do something like this for a while, and on that day, all the stars aligned, and he did what he knew he needed to do. In July 2018, Walter Carr, a college student, had been sending his friends a bunch of pleading text messages. His car had just broken down 20 miles from his apartment near Birmingham, Alabama. He was about to miss the first day of his new job at a moving company called Bellhops. No one showed up to give him a ride. Convinced that no one was going to come to his rescue, he decided that he was going to have to walk. By 2 a.m., he passed the city of Hoover. Then at 4 a.m., he reached Pelham. As he was about to enter the highway ramp, which was the most direct route to the job, he had to sit down on a bench at the bank's parking lot. "I decided I'd rest for a minute because my legs were killing me," he said later in an interview. And that's when a police car pulled up to him. The police officer was later identified by the news site AL.com as Mark Knighton. He asked Carr if everything was okay. Carr explained to him his situation and why he was sitting there at such time. "I said, 'This is crazy, but I'm actually heading to work. It's my first day on the job,'" Carr remembered saying to Officer Knighton. But Knighton asked him another question. The officer then asked Carr when he last ate. As Carr told him about the bologna he had the day before, Knighton offered to take him to get some food into his stomach. "I said, 'I just paid my rent. I have no cash on me at all,'" Carr explained. The young man and the police officer went to Whataburger with some other police officers, and Carr ordered a chicken biscuit. But the officer insisted he'd order something more as that wasn't enough for a meal. Once they finished eating, it was about time for Carr to start work. Officer Knighton drove Carr a few miles in the direction of his moving company job. He dropped him off at a church, saying it was a safe place to be. Knighton had to end his shift, but he said that another officer would be around in a few hours to check on Carr and maybe even give him a ride to work. But by the time Carr got to the church, he was worried he wouldn't make it on time. So at about 5:30 a.m., he started walking again. He was walking on a 2-lane road, and another police officer came up and told him that he heard about him. That officer was Scott Duffy, and he drove Carr the last 4 miles to his job. Later that week, on Sunday, Carr's boss, Bellhops Chief Executive Lute Marklin, called Officer Duffy to thank him and express his gratitude for what he has done for Carr. Marklin said that he wanted to meet the cop in person to show his appreciation. They agreed to meet on Monday at a coffee shop near Carr's apartment. When the 3 men met at the coffee shop, Marklin made an unexpected gesture and offered Carr his very own 2014 Ford Escape. He said that the car would be in better hands with Carr, let alone that he needed more than he did. CNN started featuring stories of heroism by police officers in their new series called Beyond the Call of Duty, which aired on Fridays on New Day and CNN Newsroom. Truly heroic work does, I hope, get the recognition it deserves. The officer who runs into a burning building to save someone, the officer who risks his or her life to save that of a civilian in a hostage situation, David Harris, a University of Pittsburgh School of Law professor and an expert on policing, said on one of these reports. But the work of police officers is full of other types of good work every day, helping the good people in neighborhoods with the problems they have, helping us all in small ways to have a safe and prosperous place to live. That's the everyday work that doesn't get a lot of recognition because it's not unusual, Harris said in his interview. In another example of going beyond their duty, NYPD officers assisted a woman in labor along FDR Drive during morning rush hour. Detective Michael Shar was going to traffic court when he got a call saying a woman was in labor and had to be taken to a hospital equals urgently. Sharp spotted the car on the side of the road and went to help the woman deliver her baby safely. Another story occurred in Minnesota during winter freeze. When temperatures reached sub-freezing levels, State Trooper Glenn Bithler bought a warm dinner for a homeless man he found lying curled up on himself near a highway near Aitkin. He then took him to the local shelter for a warm bed and room, but since there weren't any vacant rooms available at the local shelter, the trooper arranged for the homeless man to spend the night in the lobby of the sheriff's department. 2 officers and a civilian, with no protective gear, rescued 5 people from a burning house in Omaha in 2015. CNN affiliate Watt reported. After 2 people who were caught inside the flame were safely evacuated, one of the police officers went back in as he heard screams. 3 disabled people were stuck in there, who were rescued right on time. Officer Robbie Goring Jensen, along with his partner Jonathan Ablud, was later treated for smoke inhalation in a hospital. It was Ablud's first shift as a cop after graduating from the police academy only a few days earlier. William Terrell, an expert in policing at Arizona State University, said acts like these aren't uncommon, but they are often overshadowed by the negative stories about police abuse and misconduct. Many times I see officers pull money out of their pocket and buy someone a coffee, buy someone a meal, take them inside, and let them warm up, Terrell described of their work. I've seen officers let folks in the back of their car to warm up while they're handling an incident. They see someone on the corner and they say, "Why don't you hang out of the car while I handle this incident?" It had nothing to do with them. They're just letting them warm up. A group of police officers found out and pooled together $400 for a hotel room, as well as groceries for a homeless woman and her autistic teenage son who were rejected from several shelters. Who knows where they could have ended up? Officer Brian Newker said. But when we got the call, our goal was we're not going to have them end up on the street.